We'll just start, and if you feel comfortable later on turning on your camera, that's great as well. So I'm Gemma, for those who haven't seen me in the intro to Montessori. And so today, in the next, half an hour to 40 minutes, we'll be together to talk about Montessori in the home. So a little bit about what we'll cover, and then I'll share my journey as a Montessori parent, and then give you lots of ideas and tips that you may be able to implement in your house or in your house. So let's have a look here. So throughout the presentation, you'll see a variety of different photos, and some of them are my own children, and I'll tell you a little bit about my story. That photo there is of my son, and he is now 19 years old. So every time I look at that photo, I'm like, oh my goodness, time just flies so much. And in that photo, he is probably about under 6 weeks. So he's a newborn. He's actually looking at a mobile there. But if you can see in the look on his face, the power of concentration that a child has at that age is absolutely amazing. The intense stare that he was giving, he was actually looking at a black and white mobile. So what I'll cover today is I'll cover a little bit about my story as a Montessori parent, and then we'll look at why and the benefits of incorporating Montessori practices into the home. Then we'll talk a little bit about how you can get started, and throughout the presentation, I'll also be putting in some reflection questions that you can reflect on in your home space. So you may want to just take a screenshot of that to go back to in after the presentation. So let's go on. So we'll we'll go on to my journey as a Montessori parent. So my journey as a Montessori parent started 19 years ago. As I said, my son is 19, and in those photos that you'll see there, there's also my daughter, who is 16 years old as well. When I started my Montessori journey 19 years ago, Montessori for under threes was not well as known. Definitely 3 to 6. There was lots of information about how to implement Montessori in the 3 to 6 classrooms, but there was not so much information for the under threes. Because I was already a Montessori teacher, currently at that time trained in 3 to 6. I had to do my own research, so I read lots of books, and mainly by American authors. There was no materials that you could buy online like there is today, so I had to order all of the materials, including that first photo that we can see there of the mobile hanger and the butterflies. I had to purchase all of my materials from Montessori American website and have it shipped here to Australia, because I was very passionate about Montessori and implementing Montessori with my children from birth. And you'll see in that top photo, that is one of the very first mobiles that is introduced to the very young child from birth. And there is a variety of different mobiles that you can implement at that time. The photo up above, you'll see is my son at a beach experience that we had at the beach. And then the photo down below is of him when he was probably around 2 months. And in that photo there, he's actually looking at me. And the joy that children get from that age of just looking at faces and looking at the way that you move your mouth, they find such joy in connection. And then the last photo there is a photo of my son. I think he was around 6, 7, and my daughter 4, fishing. So I guess all of my research that I did, and then my children mainly were my biggest teachers. And I think that when we have children, they come to teach us something. They come to, in these, if you look at these photos and these experiences, they come to teach you that time is very valuable. Giving children time. And if you can see in that photo up there of my son in the beach, allowing him to have time to explore nature. because children don't have a concept of time. They don't have a concept of time like we do. So I think time is very precious, and being able to give time to the child to perfect things, time to explore nature, time to enjoy fishing, time to just be and watch and look. So a newborn, in that photo of that baby of my daughter under the mobile, looking and watching is a very, very valuable experience for a baby that age. And giving her the time, uninterrupted time, is very, very precious. Yeah. So what I took from my experience, and I still do today, even though my children are older, that is connections and experiences and time are really, really crucial. We can set up a beautiful environment, we can provide them with materials, but if we don't give them the time to explore the materials and the time to connect with us, because we're a very, very important part of the environment, then it doesn't matter how many beautiful resources that you have if we don't allow them the time to explore it. So that is a very, very important part. That's what my children have taught me, to slow down and enjoy the simple things in life. Just the simple things of life, of catching a fish. My son and daughter were absolutely just, blown away with that simple experience. Yeah, and time to let babies, young babies, children, the time to explore and look at your face and to explore things in their environment. That's something that is really important to hold in your mind, that how much time we're giving children, yeah, and allowing them to connect with the things in their space, yeah. Trusting the child as well, like, so when my son up in that photo up there, decided to stop and explore something, trusting that was a really, really important opportunity for him to learn, yeah. And you'll see out there, I was waiting patiently, and then I came over and had a look, and he was actually looking at some little shell in the sand. Yeah. So let's go on now, and we'll have a look at the benefits and why introducing Montessori in your home is important. So number one, supports children's natural development. So we're respecting the child's pace, as I talked about. We're respecting their pace and their interests, and we're encouraging them to be curious and explore their environment. And here's another photograph of my daughter here. My children helped me in the kitchen every single afternoon, because we used to prepare the food in the afternoon for dinner. And here my daughter was helping with making a salad. Yeah, so she was shredding the lettuce, and you'll see on the side she also had a little cutter that was appropriate for a child to use, and she also used to wear her little apron. She was around 2 in this photograph, and this was one of her favourite activities to do. Both my children helped in the kitchen every single night, and today my son still absolutely loves cooking. My daughter not so much, even though she did help at a very young age. Okay. The benefits of Montessori in the home is that it builds independence and confidence. Children learn to do things for themselves, and they get this great sense of accomplishment when they achieve something. They feel really proud of themselves, and they feel really independent. So here my daughter, shredding of the lettuce, she used to take some of the lettuce out and cut it, and then put it back in. But this was such a joy, and if you look at the concentration on her face, this is a worthwhile task. She absolutely loved it, and she was learning, she was developing the hand, so much fine motor skills that go into that activity, and being able to manage a tool in the kitchen as well was a really important skill. They develop decision-making and problem-solving skills. So they have to work out how to use the different tools. How am I going to use this cutter? Or how am I going to peel this egg? Or how am I going to scrub the potato? So there's lots of decisions they have to make, and there's lots of problem-solving skills as well. So this one here as well, Montessori in the home creates a calm and orderly environment. So we know children of this birth to 5, 6, they have a need for order in their environment. They love things. They love to find things in the same place. They love doors being shut. They like gates that are being closed. They like shoes in the same spot. They love this sense of order. And so when we set up our home in our space this way, it actually has a calming effect on the child. And often I talk about the brain. If the brain can be more, if the environment is organized, the brain can be more organized and it can be calmer. They know what to expect in their environment. So children love routines. That comes in as well. They love to know what is expected. They know, oh, when I finish with this activity, there's a space where I can put this activity. Or when I finish with this book, there's a space where I can put this book. This has a really calming effect, and it also has a calming effect on the parents as well. There's support in that way. It strengthens the parent-child bond. So children love doing things with their parents. They love being part of daily routines. And as a parent doing this with both my children, they loved helping one when they used to help in the kitchen, but they used to love helping with every other task. I know it takes more time and you have to slow down, but children love being part of daily routines. They love doing big jobs, and it makes them feel really important that they're doing the work like an adult. So my son and daughter both loved hanging the clothes on the line. But simple things that you could do to involve your child in daily life is helping take out the washing out of the dryer. That is a very easy task. They pull it out and they put it into a basket. And toddlers also love carrying heavy things. They could carry a basket of dirty washing and help you put it into the washing machine. So those really simple things they love doing. And while they're doing it, they are learning so many things by just doing those very, very simple tasks, because it takes a lot of strength in the fingers to pull things out and then put them into a basket. Yeah, so involving children in those daily life routines are so important. And once again, the child feels a sense of accomplishment. They love learning, and they're learning with you. So you're doing things with the children, with the child. Yeah.
Mom, I'm ready
Yes.
to go toilet.
Sorry. Did you want to ask a question? No? Sure. If you want to ask questions, feel free to ask questions if you would like me to further explain anything along the way. Okay, let's go on. So some other benefits. So the list of benefits goes on. It's very long. It fosters lifelong skills. So it fosters responsibility, care for the environment. So when they're working with you and helping to care for the environment, self-regulation, love of learning. They absolutely love doing those daily tasks with you. And point number 6, adaptability and accessibility. So as I talked about before, Montessori is not about the materials. It's a way of thinking of children's learning, and it's a way of teaching. It's a way of thinking about the child, and it's also a way of learning to observe the child and trust the child has within them what they need, and then we need to observe what they're interested in, and we follow this and set up activities in our home based on the observations that we have taken of the child. Yeah, so we could have, and it's not about having really expensive materials. We can use what we have, and we can design activities and make them up based on the interests and needs of our child. Yeah, and later on, we'll actually look at some different environments, and we'll look at how this environment can be adapted to make it more Montessori. So these are just some reflection questions that I put in tonight just for you to look back on after the workshop. So what inspired you to attend this session tonight? What draws you to the idea of bringing Montessori into your home? So why have you come to learn more about Montessori in your home? What are you hoping Montessori can bring to your family or your child's development? And are there any challenges you're hoping Montessori might help you navigate at home? So these are just some reflection questions that they may help you get clarity around why you've decided to come and learn more about Montessori in the home. So before we get started on how to set up Montessori in your home, or some ideas, and then looking at some environments, we need to understand, so before implementing Montessori at home, we need to know your child's stage of development. So I'll just read a little bit here. To truly support your child using the Montessori approach, it helps to understand what stage of development they're in. So the technical word that Marie Montessori calls these is planes of development. So tonight I've focused mainly on the first plane of development, which is the absorbent mind. So a child who is in the first plane of development has an absorbent mind. Their mind is like a sponge. So they absorb every single thing in their environment. They absorb the sounds, they observe visual, they use all their different senses. If we think about the senses, they observe through their senses. Their mind is like a sponge, and they learn by hands-on experiences. They have to use their hand to learn, and repetition. So that point there as well, repetition. They need to repeat something over and over again. And that is why involving them in daily tasks like unpacking the dishwasher for an older child, my 3-year-old up could do that, unpacking the dishwasher. And you have to unpack the dishwasher many times a day. And you have to wash your clothes many times in a week. So then there is lots of repetition in that. So sometimes we don't even need to set up many experiences. We just involve them in the experiences that we need to do in daily living skills. Yeah. So the second stage of development I put in there, which is they class it as the reasoning mind. So the child, when they're under 6, they have this absorbent mind. It's unconscious. But once they get into that older age group, their mind becomes more conscious, and they can direct their attention to excuse me, they can direct their attention to different things that they want to learn about. They're more on language, movement. They ask the biggest thing for that 6 to 12 is that they ask lots of why questions. It's a period of intellectual gathering. So that would be different to the first plane of development. And why does this matter before you bring Montessori into your home? It helps you choose the right activities, and it helps you create an environment that meets the developmental needs of that child. So a child in the 6 to 12, we would set up an environment completely different to a 0 to 6 age group. So understanding where your child is very important before seeing what you may set up in your space. So here I have just put a little photo here, which is easily able to be set up in a home, probably for an older child, maybe 3 up, just because of the height of the shelving. So here are some ideas for setting up Montessori in your home. So need to think about everything has a place. Everything in your space has a place. Order helps children feel secure and confident. So for example, when my children used to read books, I had a little basket of books, and it used to sit on the couch, and there'd be like maybe 4 or 5 books that my children knew that when we were going to read stories during the day, this is, we had another pile of little books next to their bed. If they wanted to read books during the day, they would go to that little pile of books, they would read it, and then when they'd finished, they would put the books back into the little basket. So that was a place. The books had a place. They knew that the books stayed there. Yeah, we didn't let the books go in other spaces unless I was, of course, reading them the story. But they knew that the books stayed in that place, and they thoroughly loved sitting on a couch and reading the books. Child-sized furniture. So thinking about the furniture that you have in your space. So chairs, shelves, and tools, and thinking, can my child or children use these independently? Can they sit on the chair independently, or is it a really, really large chair and they can't get onto it by themselves independently? They need us to lift them up. Can they access the materials from a shelf? Or is it so high that they need us to lift them up to reach the materials? If we are going to get them to help us in the kitchen, can they use the scrubbing brush if you are scrubbing the potatoes, for example, or is the brush so big that their hand can't fit it? Yeah. Especially when we're giving them tools like knives. Is the knife, for one, extremely sharp or way too big for their hand? So we need to look at the things that we're giving the child. Is it appropriate in relation to their hand? Yeah. And can they use that tool independently? Another example could be that they want to help us sweep, but the broom is a huge adult-sized broom. They're going to find it very, very difficult to sweep with a broom that size. So that's very easy. You can buy those sort of brooms and you just cut them down and make them smaller. Yeah. I love that third one, less is more. So it's about having really good quality toys that you have put out, and then we rotate. So it's not having all the toys out at once. It's about having maybe a few out at once. And then when we observe the child using them, or we find that they're not using them as much, we take it out and replace it with a different toy based on our observations of the child. Yeah. So for example, they may really interested in building blocks. We could have a little basket of a few of their favorite blocks. And as we notice that they're not using that activity as much, we could just change the type of block or add more blocks. And that makes it a brand new activity as well. Natural materials, you don't have to use all natural materials, but thinking about the type of quality of materials that you're using. So plastic is okay, but think about what other materials can you introduce into your child's environment. Because children at this age are developing their senses, and we want to involve them as many rich sensory experiences as we can. So encouraging, so we could have wood, fabric. You can think of all different other types of natural materials or man-made materials that are safe for young babies. And then accessible choices. Do we have open shelves with a small number of activities that your child can choose from? Yeah. And I like to talk about when we set up a space like this, there are many, many messages that we are giving to our child. And of course, the child is not aware of this, but they're hidden messages, they're unconscious messages. We're saying to them that you matter, your work matters, and your development matters. And we respect you, and you deserve to have beautiful things. Like we respect that you want to develop and be independent. We look at a 2-year-old, their favorite word is me do it. They want to do things for themselves. They want to do things, and because they know that it makes them feel good. Yeah. So when we do these things and we set up a space for them, so if we have a look at that photo there, that just looks so inviting. It just looks like reading is a special time. And when we make reading a special time, children also look after the books, because we show them that books are to be respected. But it also shows that reading, it's important for us to set up beautiful spaces for you because you matter. because your development matters and we trust that you're going to grow and develop in this space. So what we're going to do now is we're going to look at some environments, and I'm going to walk you through the space and how we could make changes to this space. So you don't have to make huge changes. So I've got some photos that I've just found. So there's an example, this one here. Hold on, I'll just. So here is a photo of a playroom in a house. And if we think about a child at this age, they're a sensitive period for order. They're absorbing every single thing that they see in this space. And it can be so, so overwhelming because there is so many things to look at. And when there is so many things to look at, the child is like in a toy shop and they just move from space to space. They cannot focus on one thing. It's just too overwhelming for them. Yeah. But we can make changes in this space that are really, really simple. So there's a great shelf over here with the books on it. That's something that could easily be changed. You can keep the shelf, and then all we do is we just take away the books, and we could add baskets of activities in that space. It's great to see there's a little table and chairs, and it looks like child size, probably appropriate for a 3-year-old up, just because of the size of the furniture, and maybe a 2.5-year-old. If you're going to be for more of a younger age group, like 12 months, the table and chair would need to be smaller for them to access it independently. We can see that there's mats on the floor, and yes, they're colourful, but they're a distraction. And so when we look at spaces, we need to think about what could distract the child from their work. And their work, I mean play. But in Montessori, we just call that work. Work and play, it's the same because the child doesn't distinguish. We could easily just take the mats off, and underneath is beautiful floorboards. And then we could just put a nice natural mat in the middle. So you don't need to get rid of things in your space. It's just making small adaptations in the space as well. With all the materials here, that's great. There might be so many different construction activities in there. It's about having a space where you can keep all the materials and then bringing them out gradually and rotating them and changing them as well. Another thing here as well is often children will see this bookcase and they'll want to read all the books. So all the books will come off the shelf. Now, then when we ask them to clean them up, it's a very, very big task to put all those books back on the bookcase. And we wonder why they don't want to do it, because they like to pack away, but they like to pack away in a limited space. So if there's a basket of just maybe 10 or 11 blocks, it depends on the age of the child, and also if your child is quite skilled with the blocks. So we limit what they have to pack away, and then packing away is joyful. But packing away 50 books on a bookcase is not joyful. Yeah. So we want to make learning joyful. That is the aim. We want them to find joy. And I work at a Montessori childcare centre, and I look at my toddlers and they love packing away. They absolutely love packing away because we have set up the environment that allows them to pack away easily. We just say, can we put these blocks in the basket? And they will do it, and they love doing it. Yeah. Another photograph here as well, which has some great things going on. It has a beautiful, we can see the beautiful floorboards. It doesn't matter about the type of the floorboards. It's more, we can see a neutral coloured mat. So when the child works on the mat is not overwhelming for them. So it's quite neutral. There's a beautiful shelf there, which has different sections we can see. And it also has drawers. So we can see the train set. The train set could go in one of those drawers. So the material's isolated to that space. There are a lot of toys in that space. So that would be something that we would look at and think about how could we put that on the shelf to make it accessible to the child easily. There is a lovely easel here. And depending on the age of the child, this is a great item to have in the home, but it depends on the age of the child. So, for example, it's quite high. So if it was for maybe a 4 to 5-year-old, it would be quite appropriate. But if we're trying to give this to a 12-month-old, 18-month-old, because 18-month-olds can be introduced to painting with support, then the child would have a lot of difficulty reaching the easel. And so then they would find painting challenging, and they wouldn't be able to do it independently. You can see that there's some lovely pictures on the walls. That's great. When it's having really beautiful and inviting pictures on the walls is great, but they're up so high that the child can't look at them. So if the child wanted to look at those pictures, I know what a toddler would do, and those with young children, they would want to climb on the shelf to see the picture. So we need to think about having beautiful pictures and photographs on our wall, but thinking about having them down at the child's height, so that if they want to look at the picture and they want to look at it and see, you know, the colors or what's actually happening in that picture, it's down on their height, because children will find ways to get their needs met. So if they really, really want to look at that painting, they will find a way. And it's very clever. They'll use the shelf. Yeah. But the materials will get broken, and the child will, you know, it's quite a risk to the child to be climbing on the shelves as well. So that's something we could do to change that space. Then I've got some examples here of ways that books could be. So this is just a space, a photograph that I have found of a home that is setting up Montessori in their space. So we can see the baskets. So it's quite sectioned off. There's some nice baskets. There's some baskets of books. So the books have a place. If we can see down over here, there's some paintings, and they're at the child's height. So not every painting in your space needs to be at child height, but those that you think the child might be interested in looking at, we put them down low. There is a nice neutral coloured mat, but there's also a space where all family members can work. So there's a desk where an adult may be working, and beside the desk you can see a mobile and then a large mat, and that could be for a young baby. So we could have an older child that's in this space using their activities, but a younger child that's on a mat, and an adult that could also be working. So everyone has their space, and everyone has a space to work. Yeah. And a footstool as well for the adult, but also children, toddlers really love pulling themselves up onto a footstool. And it's nice neutral colours. There's some plants there. So for the older child, they may be encouraged to care for the things in their space, watering a plant. That could be one example that they could do. So this is a space that's catering for everyone in the family. Coming up in this picture here, we'll see an example of how you could set up trays in your space. In this photo here with the numbers, you don't always have to have trays or baskets. Sometimes the material can just sit alone, but you'll see there's only a few, only 2 on each shelf. So it doesn't make it overwhelming, because remember, a child of this age, they absorb everything and they see everything. And we want the space to be calming for them. In this one over here with the large map on the wall, they've used containers as well as just placing the objects on the shelf. So a little dollhouse, that works quite well. And then there's a little basket that could hold blocks, or a little train set. And in the bottom one below, they've used, you can see on the shelf, they've used trays, but there's also an area that's defined. So the child, when they're working, it helps sometimes to define the space so that the material doesn't go everywhere. So they've had a little space here, and they've sort of blocked it off with the shelving, but the child knows that they can use the space. beside the shelf. And it's quite nice and airy. There's some nice plants, so it feels inviting. You want to set up a space that feels inviting and encourages your child to work in that space. Yeah. And also what's really, really important that I didn't mention before as well is that we're not trying to replicate Montessori like in the classroom. It's different in the home. We're not trying to set up a Montessori like with all the different curriculum areas like that you would in a classroom. It works very differently in the home because the home is where there are lots of different people and it's a community more. Yeah. So we don't try and set up. So if your child goes to a Montessori, and even if they don't, we're not trying to set up the space like we would in a Montessori classroom. It works very differently in the home. But there are elements that we can take. So the next part I just want to talk about is that when we're setting up the home, it's really important to understand the role that we play in the environment. So I've just got a brief slide on that. So in Montessori, the adult is the guide, the observer, and the preparer of the environment. So our role is to observe first and watch your child to understand what their needs are. We prepare the environment, calm, beautiful, and accessible spaces, supports independence. Model rather than instruct. So we show children how to do tasks slowly and clearly. So, for example, when I was showing my children how to use the special little cutting knife, I would show them how to do it first and then give them an opportunity. Because remember, children aren't aware of how to use these tools. So we need to model and show the child how to use it. We encourage independence. Ask, is this something my child can do for themselves? So when we're with the child, we can think, oh, maybe today the child can take their socks off, or they maybe have to put their shoes on. A simple one for toddlers is, and my son absolutely loved this one, he loved to, when he was about to have a bath, take the dirty clothes and put them into the dirty basket. He had to do that. I could have stepped in and made it easier, but he wouldn't have got as much joy, and he loved doing that. That was part of the routine. Dinner, bath, and then he would take his dirty clothes and put them straight into the dirty basket. So that was a really important part of his routine that he had to do. And then we need to be patient and consistent. We need to allow them, and as I said at the beginning of the webinar, allow them to have time. It takes time, and it takes repetition. It takes time for them to achieve those tasks, and giving them the time is really, really valuable. There's no hurry. There's no rush. It's just if it takes them, it takes them a few months to take their socks off. Let it be. They're learning so much from taking their socks off independently. So I have some more reflection questions that you may want to now reflect on your own home environment, if that's something that you would like to do. So some things that you could think about is, can my child reach and return things on their own? Can they reach up and get their clothes? Can they get their shorts or t-shirts or underpants, depending on the age of the child, of course. But we can always bring it down. If you have a very high cupboard, we can always bring baskets down and have them low on the space, and the child can choose their shirt or their shorts for the day. And of course, we only put clothes in those baskets that we're happy for them to wear. So if they decide that they're going to take, if you put in, say, 3 shirts and they choose one of them, we have to be happy that that's the one they choose. So if there's really beautiful dresses or shirts, we don't let that be one of the choices. Because when we give children choices, we want them to know, okay, you've made that choice, and we have to be happy with that choice as well. Are materials displayed in a way that invites my child to use them independently? That's something you may want to think about. Sometimes walking around and just sitting in the space that you set up, does this invite calm and focused play? you might think about what can I remove to make it more peaceful and ordered? And then do I, as an adult, model calm and patience and care in this space? How you're using the materials or how you're in that space as well. And I've just put a little bit here because Montessori Instinct, you will have seen the sign. I have my own business where I support parents to make this journey if that's what you are wanting to do in your home, because I know from experience when I had my children that having that support at home and guidance from someone who's been there and done it and is trained, it would have made life a lot easier. And so these are some things. So it's what's one small change you may feel ready to make at home? How would it feel to have guidance as you take the next step? And would you like helping choosing materials for your space? Because I can help, depending on the age of the child, support you to choose materials that are appropriate for that age group. So Montessori Instinct, that's the name of my company. If you're wanting to go deeper or you're just wanting to start and learn about Montessori, feel free to connect and we can have a discussion. So we can have a 30-minute free introduction discussion and move from there if that's something that you feel inspired to do. So if anyone has any questions that they want to ask further about, Montessori in the home, I'd be love to take them. So if you want to just raise your hand or put them in the chat box.